This is the 2016 Electra Townie Go. Towny is now a part of Trek, and I think that was 2014, 2015. They've been operating independently, which is awesome, but they should be available in more places, and I'm so glad to see upgrades like the Bosch system being used on this bike. This is far and away my favorite Towny Go. I've been testing this bike. I think I've done a couple reviews on it in the past, and it had like kind of a SRAM system with a SRAM battery. Let's check that out. I'm here at Jack's Bicycle Center in Irvine, California, and they actually carried one of the older Towny Go electric bikes, and it's really neat to see this up close again. The last time I saw it was probably a few years ago. You can see it has the SRAM drive system with the rear rack-mounted battery. In 2016, they moved to the mid-drive. That's the Bosch center drive performance. It's got the down tube battery like that. The mid-drive is just going to give you more power and efficiency, better balance, and it frees up the rack for carrying cargo and stuff without flexing the frame as much. So I really love that. The price tag on all of the Bosch systems tends to be a little bit higher, and what that means is you end up with sales going on some of these older Townies. So still a really great bike. It's still got the frame lock and a lot of the sort of the nice color schemes and matched fenders and chain guards and stuff. The new one's also very, very beautiful, but it's a new bike for 2016, so it's great to see this up close and just kind of make that quick comparison. Cool. So what we're looking at here are the two different versions of this bike. We've got a 15-inch sort of a step-thru, a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, not too much, but going to be a lot easier to mount, kind of stand over the frame like that and handle it at stop signs, at stoplights. It's pretty cool. The funny thing is that this model, even though it looks like less of a bike than this, it's got the step-thru, it actually weighs just about the same, maybe even a touch heavier, about a pound heavier. In the review, I'm saying it's about 58 pounds for both of these, but I think that one's 58.5 and this one's 57.5. This is the high step, and the seat tube is 17 inches versus 15. So a little bit larger. You've got that nice kind of, tall look. I think traditionally kind of a guy's bike, ladies' bike, and the colors do reflect that. They've got a whole bunch to choose from, but I love that they've color matched things like the rims right here, the aluminum fenders, the rack. It just looks beautiful. I think this is like the azure blue, and I love it. I mean, it's very eye-catching. Even the saddle, which is this big oversized kind of comfort saddle by Velo, matches these leatherette semi-ergonomic grips, stitched, really cool looking, and the cockpit is clean. I'm going to get into that a little bit more later when I'm talking about the display system and stuff, but I just want to take a minute to flip back and forth between the two bikes and just show you kind of the color matching again and the wiring that's all integrated through the frame. One of my complaints about the step-thru model of years past was that you could feel a little bit bendy, that you had a lot of weight towards the back. You do have two tubes right here, so that gives you a little bit of strength, but now with the low and center drive from Bosch, I think this is the Performance Cruise model, and the battery being right there, they squeezed it in between the top tube and the down tube. It's less flexy, okay? So it's just wonderful that way. Performance aside, handling has been improved. I love that. Lower center of gravity, easier to balance on, easier to kind of hold, and then just more room with the rack. So I love that. I'm going to keep going back to that again and again, but I should focus on what else this bike offers. So you've got 8 gears to choose from, and you can shift at standstill like I just did, which is very cool because, again, maybe you're going up a hill and there's a stop sign, you got to stop. You can shift all the way down and make it easy for yourself to pedal, so you don't have to really stand up and strain your knees. It's one of the things I really like, and it's just clean, it's integrated, easy to use, very intuitive. Little window right there so you can see that. That operates this nice Inter 8 Shimano Nexus internally geared hub in the rear. Pretty nice stuff, and you'll notice that there's this kind of like fan thing going on the front and the rear. That's the Shimano Nexus Inter M kind of a band brake. And so what's happening here is that your mechanical wire is going in here and it's pulling on a band, and the band tightens around this like metal piece, and then this is like a heat sink for it. Okay, so in my experience this is smooth, but it requires a little bit more effort to actuate. You can pull on these Nexus, fairly standard size, but larger than a mountain bike or something that's just a couple fingers, and you do have to pull a little bit to get it to stop, especially because it is a little bit of a heavier bike and potentially heavier load with that rack full. So keep that in mind. Not my favorite brakes in the world, but they're a little bit cleaner, maybe than if you had V brakes or just standard cantilever brakes. So it works. It works all right, but that's one of the low points for me on the bike. I guess coming back to other neat little accessories, they've got this. It's like an ABUS cafe lock, and you can see there's kind of this curved portion here. A piece of metal like goes through here, and it makes it so that no one can ride the bike away. They could pick it up and run off with it, but again, 58 pounds, not going to be a ton of fun. They call it a cafe lock because you could just drop on by the cafe, twist that, and dash inside and get yourself some coffee or whatever. So here it is again. You have to, I think the key is kind of built into it, and so you twist the key, lock it, and you're good. I also really like the scissoring kickstand mass load that they've got. You can see it's kind of adjustable here. It positions the bike really well for loading up with cargo, kind of lifts that rear wheel and just keeps it very straight and balanced as long as the surface that you're sitting on is pretty flat. So very cool. Some nice little extras on the rack here that's standard gauge tubing, so it should work really well with clip-on panniers and stuff. I don't see a max weight label anywhere, but usually it's like 25 kilograms, like 50 pounds or so. Love that they've got front and rear lights by Spaningo, so that's like Pixio in the back. Here's the front one, Kendo, kind of adjustable angle on that as well. Great safety features all around. One like this with the white tires is going to show up a little bit better. And the lights do operate. They're integrated, so you can use them with the display panel. I love that. So I'm almost to that point. Also got this nice little chain guard right here, and the chain is going to stay really tight and I think pretty clean and maintenance free because there isn't a derailleur back here. It's really just one cog in the rear, one cog in the front, and all of the gear changing happens right in there in that Shimano hub. So very cool stuff. Decent pedals, just aluminum with kind of the rubberized grip. They work all right, should be pretty stiff. Quick release on that seat post. And I think this might be a steel fork in the front. So cool, cool, cool. So now let's talk about that mid-drive system. Okay, so Bosch has been a leader in the space for probably like 5 years now in the United States. Maybe 3 or 4 years, I guess, as they've been in Europe and had kind of like a 250 watt motor. In the US, they introduced a little bit more powerful one. This is a 350 watt Performance Cruise. This thing is great. 60 newton meters of torque, super responsive. It's actually measuring how fast the wheel is turning. You can see the sensor right there and a little magnet right there. So it's measuring like, is the person moving? And it's measuring, okay, are they pedaling? How fast are they pedaling? That's cadence. And it's measuring torque. So how hard are you pushing? The harder you push, the more energy you're gonna get out of the system. So it's very efficient, very, very responsive. So responsive that they don't need brake lever inhibitors. Like it stops super fast. If you stop pedaling, it's off. So that makes the kind of the cockpit area even cleaner, fewer wires and stuff. And it works really well. I've never felt out of control on one of these systems. You do not have a throttle mode, so you do have to pedal when you're riding this bike. But in my opinion, if you boost it all the way up to the highest level of assist, it's very responsive and very powerful. It's giving you more than double your input just right back. So I don't know if I need a throttle. And it's a bicycle. You're riding, you feel very comfortable. It's a good stretch. So that's what's going on with the motor. And then this is the Bosch Power Pack 400, 36 volt, 11 amp hour pack. I think it's 396 watt hours, so almost 400. I love this thing. It locks to the down tube, even though it's not integrated like some of the other bikes where it's completely hidden. In some ways that works to your advantage because it's a lot easier to get on and off. You can quickly tell if the battery's full or not just by pressing that little indicator button. You can charge it on the frame or off the frame, which I love. And sometimes I do bring my battery inside just because maybe I'm at work and I'm locking my bike to the rack and I want to top off, or I'm at home and it's really cold or hot in the garage. It's best to keep this thing at like between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, just cool, dry location, and then just kind of top it off if you haven't used it in a while. If you're going to store it for a long term, maybe leave it at about half just so it's kind of stable, it's not stressing that. Go ahead and unlock the battery here. So we do that, pops right up. It's got this nice little handle piece. You can see the charging port on the base. So very cool. Relatively lightweight. I think this is like 5.5 pounds. The motor is closer to like 8 or 9. So there we go. And then just make sure it's clicked down. Kind of had to push on it There we go. Hear it click. Make sure that that happens so you don't accidentally lose your battery taken off. So I think that's about it. Let's hop up to the cockpit here. I mentioned those nice grips. They're a little bit fatter, so it just kind of gives you something more to hold on to. I like that sort of an upright riser handlebar going on for both of these. A little bit easier to reach. And then Electra is famous for their sort of flat foot technology is what they call it. So you'll see that the seat tube goes straight down and then the pedals are mounted forward. Okay, so a lot of bikes, most bikes, it's like the cranks are right here. And so your body is sort of like in a line, it's straight up and down. Whereas this one, the pedals are more forward. And so it's more like you're on a sofa or something, a little bit of a lounge kind of a feel. And that's the whole comfort ergonomic thing. Your head's sort of upright, spotting a little bit easier. Not going to get the same kind of sore neck and back that you might if you're really leaning over kind of in a racer stance. That's not what this bike is about. It's about like neighborhood riding, maybe commuting, hanging out with your friends. It's just going to make it a lot easier, a whole heck of a lot easier to climb. Again, the motor much quieter than the SRAM one, just so much more powerful and responsive. I can't say enough. I'm a big fan of the Bosch system, but it is more expensive. It's like $27, $29. So you know you're getting up there, closer to that $3,000 mark, and you have more choices at that level. But Electra just looks beautiful, and they've got that 2-year warranty now because they're part of Trek. That's covered there as well. They'll ship it to your local dealer for free, and then sometimes dealers will even drop it off if you want to go that route. So let's jump into how this actually works in terms of operation. Charge the battery, it's on the bike. Pull out the key, you don't have to leave it in. Love that. And then you press power. I guess I did that earlier, so I'm going to do it again. Here we go. Power. Perfect. And you can see it's kind of backlit. It sort of glows. Really nice. And then I immediately get my battery level indicator. There's like 5 ticks. Speed, my assist level. Right now assist is off, so this is just going to function like a normal bicycle. And then down here you have all these other cool readouts. You can cycle through them by pressing I for info. And there's an I button right here too, so you can see this will be really easy to operate while you're riding, and it even kind of clicks, which is nice because I call that like haptic feedback. It's kind of tactile. You can hear it, you can feel it. You really don't even need to look down. You get used to this thing. You just kind of click, 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 and you feel more power immediately. It's wonderful. Okay, so before I get into that, let's press this I and explore the menus. So range is really cool. Depending on the level of assist you choose and your battery level, it's going to tell you how far it thinks you can go. So right now, no assist, there's no range estimate. Eco, it says 19 miles. And as we go up to turbo, all the way down to 7 miles. Keep in mind, we only have 2 ticks, okay? So it's really not very full right now. We're at less than half, like 40%. So range estimate, odometer, trip distance, clock, max speed, average speed, trip time. Tons of information. One thing that I learned just today about this menu system is that this has sort of a shift recommendation. Shift assist is what they call it. So if you're pedaling in a really low gear, like gear number 1, and you're like, whoa, and you're pedaling really fast, the system's gonna say, hey, you should shift up, and like a little arrow appears right there. And that's kind of cool. You know, you can actually turn that off if you want, but it's just like, oh yeah, maybe I should shift up, you know, to get more efficiency. Because the motor is relying on the gear that you choose, it's very efficient, but it also can max out that way. If you're in a low gear, the motor's like, okay, I'm spinning fast, and it wants you to shift up so it can help you go faster too. The range of speeds on the Bosch system is much better than a lot of the other mid-drive systems, in my opinion. Again, it's kind of my favorite. The chain ring in the front, you can't really see it, but it's smaller. It's a tiny little sprocket instead of a big normal size sprocket. And that means it spins at a higher RPM. It gives the motor, I think, more strength that way, and there's a wider range of speeds that it can output. So it's an awesome system. I've used the same system on like full suspension mountain bikes and climbed super steep hills. So it's totally overkill for something like the Townie, but you're gonna get amazing range. It's like 20 to 110 miles, depending on what level of assist you choose. Again, there are those 4 levels. So Eco, Tour, Sport, or Turbo. I spend most of my time in Tour. You know, you get a little bit of a workout, you're moving your legs, but it's still doing most of the work. It's basically like doubling your output. So that's pretty cool. One thing that I noticed is that the walk assist doesn't seem to work. I'm in the United States, and a lot of people don't even know there is walk assist, and basically what that would do is just like a little throttle that would push you forward. So that's a complaint. I guess I'd say, hey Bosch, put walk assist on for the United States. Also, one of the other cool things that's easy to miss is that there's like a little charging port over here. There's a little micro USB port, and I think Bosch does sell a cable, like micro USB to normal USB, and you could charge your phone or other things. I haven't really tried it. Seems like it puts out lower level amps, and so it's not like a great boost, but you can. This whole display is actually removable, so there's like a lever on the back. You just slide it up, take it off, take it in with you, just like the battery. And that's perfect, because if it's really bright out, or it's snowing, or you're in an area that's maybe a little less safe, you can take the display with you and people won't be able to tamper with your bike. And there is a set screw in there, so you could change it and lock this on permanently if you wanted, but I love that it swivels. Just, it's a great system. And if you want, one of the other things we were talking about earlier was just sort of the different settings. If you hold reset and I for a few seconds, it goes into the menu configuration, and then you just press I again to go from clock, wheel circumference, language, English, units, kilometers or miles. A lot of times, somehow it'll get, I've seen bikes where it's like, it's in kilometers per hour, and maybe you buy the bike used or someone's been tampering with it at the shop. If you want to go back to miles per hour, get into these menus, and then just press the light button and it will change between the two. And then it also gives us our time format and shift recommendation. That's what I was talking about with the arrow. So very cool. Okay, I think that's it. So I'm gonna hold reset and I, and we'll get ready to do a little test ride. Okay, found a nice little side street, and I'm gonna do a quick ride test here. I'm starting out in turbo mode in gear level 1, because I wanted to show you shift assist. So see how my cadence is really speeding up? And then there's that little gray arrow pointing up. So that's what it means, because this isn't really the optimal way to operate the bike. I'm spinning way too fast, and the motor's like, I'm at maxed out, shift up to a higher gear and I'll be able to help you more. So to do that, we just shift gears. There we go. A little bit smoother. And you might have been able to hear it, but the Bosch system actually has shift sensing. So it's sort of software driven, and it sort of listens to the movement as you're changing gears, and it cuts power to the motor just for a real quick second, so that it's not gonna create too much strain on the gears and stuff and mashing. So that's cool. Another reason that I really like the Bosch system. I'm gonna put the camera down by the motor again so you can hear it. Again, we're in the highest level, so there's a little bit of a whine, kind of a high-pitched whine, but it's really not too loud once you get going. And just so fast in the way that it turns on and turns off again. I really like that. Just leveraging that rear cassette to get you that efficiency, whether you're climbing or trying to hit the top speed. The top speed on this is 20 miles per hour in the United States. If you're in Europe, I think it's 25 kilometers per hour, closer to 15.5 miles per hour. I think that's a pretty good overview. This is what I've always kind of hoped that the Towny Go could be. Some of the original designs were cool, but just the frame balance, the frame flex issues, you're still paying a lot for this bike, but you're getting premium systems and a great warranty and stuff, and just some really beautiful designs. So for the full write-up on this, and if you want, you can check out some of the older Towny Go's, maybe get one for a little less if it's on sale or something. I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com, and of course, ride safe.